Oh yeah. Duh. What am I doing?
Hello. It's going good. Can't see you yet. I'm not streaming right now, by the way, or anything. I don't know if you are. Oh, okay.
There we go. Yeah. Thank you, Chud. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we got it. We got a few people here now. We're gonna talk to Thrashing Rage. Do you think it's fair to describe you as like an anti-linguist? That's the best I could come up with.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna trying to like the reason I asked you to come on is because I really wanted to suss out what you meant.
Did I do the right? Can you see me?
So you're sharing your screen.
Yeah. Fuck.
So see the camera icon?
The camera icon where?
On the call. So it's like camera icon, the share screen
Yeah.
icon.
It
You
says
click
turn
the
off
camera.
camera and all that. Yeah.
So click the drop down,
Okay.
and it should let you select your camera.
I see.
Yeah, are you using OBS or anything?
Yeah.
Okay. And for OBS, you're gonna want to turn on.
Turn
So go
on
to
the
OBS and turn.
virtual
Yep,
camera.
on OBS. Yep, there you go. You got it. Hell yeah, man.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah. Now let me just get you.
I'm figuring it out slowly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna set you up on mine to look good.
Well, thank you. Let's see here. I gotta do the same for you as well. It's never the same. Yeah. So instead of me trying to explain your ideas, I'm gonna let you do it whenever you're ready.
Yep. All right. All right. So I'm going to read off some thoughts I have written down last night and this morning.
Mhm.
And hopefully it'll put a perspective on some of my ideas I've been trying to communicate on my channel.
Yeah.
All right, let's start.
So can you give me like a base overview of it? And we can get like further into the
that's
weeds as we
kind
go.
of, I've kind of structured my what I have written down to kind of tell you what it's all about. Like if you kind of follow along, I think it'll make sense. But you
Yeah,
stop
lay
me
it on me.
anytime. Like you should like, stop me so we can talk about it or I can, go through things you have questions about.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely will stop you if I have any questions.
All right. All right. Convictions. Convictions themselves should only be held in one's own guidance of thought, highlighting a problem dormant in the essence of linguistics and our potential interaction with them. Language exists in our imagination as informative obstacles, devoid of all thought behind them. You perceive words and then act as a necessary component responsible of mapping into actuality the possibilities and probabilities of the described context and how they may or may not relate to certain aspects of how reality manifests in response to it, and to identify any relation of its continuance to essential parts not highlighted within the zoomed in parameters of its generalistic confine to syntactic fixation. Also in question is the validity of potential assumptions that can be made of words in reference to categorizations that certain associated characteristics might be attributed to, as it relates to the point of the message, and to any understood vulnerabilities within actuality that can coexist within an expressed conceptualization. Uh,
Yeah, I think if I may, can it sounds like the best summary I could come up with that is that um sometimes words can have additional meanings, and when two people are communicating using their words, it sometimes it takes like a conversation, like a meta conversation, to figure out exactly what's happening.
right, metaphysical investigations are really at the core of language, you know.
Yeah, it's so like I like to do a lot of have a lot of conversations where I have to say like, well, what do you mean by this? But I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. It feels like you see this as a bad thing.
Well, it's you are the only thing that is making it bad. It doesn't have to be bad. I'm not anti-language, I'm anti the potential effects of it. And that's what I'm going to get
Okay.
into. So yeah. Okay, I'll continue. Um, Values to be understood and information are by nature estranged from interconnected values in theory that are necessary in obtaining a genuine realization of the causation of these values, rather than justifying any value simply with its effect. This is how a value is solved, or in other words, given meaning. If one is not worthy of this cognitive exploration of logic outside the bounds of mere narrative propositioning, then the only other alternative is the autopiloted adaptability of our projected naivety onto external reality as it manifests within our imagination. External reality, meaning the entertainment of universal creation, a psychic array made by man existing only in the imagination. The imagination is the product of the psyche that gives it life and pulls the strings of the psyche that which from which it's conjured. I mean.
Hmm.
The result is the circular adaptation of the two, with the imagination functioning as the source of conceptualized knowledge that the psyche interacts with in order to construct ideas before recording its analysis of the concept into its retained memory. And the psyche functions as one's own methodology of how they interact with and acknowledge the world, the environmental contents of their imagination included.
Um, so if somebody's asking about what we're talking about, this is Thrashing Rage. He has a couple of YouTube videos where he talks about would you say like a theory of language?
Yeah, the effects that language has on our psyche.
Yeah. And I seen him on Will and his channel because he found him. I think he just found you just from somebody shooting him a link or two.
Yeah.
And I saw him on there, and I know Will initially showed me a clip of you and said, "Did you understand anything what you just said?" I said, "Yeah, I understood every single word he said." Like I'm really into philosophy. You're using a lot of words that are like really like philosophically driven. And so I'm gonna try my best as we go along to try to break this down into like
Hey, and
more layman words,
the
which
best
is
part, after this is the VOD's still there, so they can just like analyze what's said and all
yeah.
that.
Um, well, even just for me too, because I want to make sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, sure.
so, I guess I just so that I can make sure that I'm completely following you. When you say like psyche and imagination,
Yes.
um, can you tell me what you mean by those things? Just
Right.
so I have a really good, clear understanding of where you're at with this.
So yeah, as I said before, think of the psyche, right? It's really like your method of interaction with the world, right? It's what you record into your memory is your understanding of what you think of the world, to put it simply. And the imagination is where it's the source of knowledge that can be recorded into the psyche. And we adapt to the imagination, and the imagination adapts to the psyche. It's like, I want you to imagine like something circular, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
the
I would.
imagination, I want to like try to convey that it's really an environment. It's a psychic environment. So I'm trying to push the notion that, I mean, don't we adapt to, wouldn't you think we'd adapt to our imagination, right?
Um, I'd say we'd either adapt to our imagination or our imagination
'Cause
is
that
the way by which we
imagination
adapt.
imagination is host to like external reality, things that we've created that wouldn't exist, right?
Yeah.
And we had to imagine those things. And I really like imagination. It is how you, if you understand anything or discover something, it is done in the imagination.
I think it's our way of perceiving things other than they are like
Well,
directly interpreted.
the psyche perceives the imagination when it interacts with it. That's kind of what I'm saying. The psyche interacts with the imagination. It has contents within it. The psyche is another thing about the psyche, that I'll get into later too, is that well, the emotions are a part of that, intrinsically tied. That's like where the ego is too, The
Hmm.
psyche and the ego are kind of they're together. Um, Here I'll go on, unless you have.
Um, so yeah, so I'd say like what you're saying is like our senses would inform our psyche, which then from there it gets applied it like our psyche interprets our sense data and then like basically hands it over to imagination. Our imagination reinterprets it with kind of like with like our own flavor, like, which would be like how our
Oh,
imagination like of like us, how we interpret and how we imagine things. Or are you saying that like our imagination
the
doesn't do any of the
psyche, the
Mhm.
psyche interprets the imagination, and
But doesn't it also informs it too, right?
the imagination, what's informed from the imagination and understood by the person that is influenced by the imagination to influence the imagination. It's circular. Do you understand what I'm?
Yeah, I understand you're saying
Yeah,
circular.
yeah.
I'm saying like at what point does like our sense data enter into this? So like I'm hearing you talking. Which gets to that
Information
first?
is in the imagination. You have to imagine it. That's where concepts and knowledge is constructed and conceived, where you can, inspect it. That's an act of imagination, and that's the psyche interacting with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Um. No, here, right here is what I was saying. Intrinsically tied to the psyche is the sense of self, our ego, and its inevitable emotional influence on our method of approaching external entities like language, which, in order to decode efficiently, requires a certain honesty that is defined by the essence of one that doesn't seek to escape their confusion, and rather becomes one with their imagination and confronts the meaning of their darkness, so to speak. Existentialism, all that, yada yada. Um, there also lies conflict in how perceived words correlate to our sense of self identity, as the identities of many are self associated to groups and labels that represent those groups and what they may stand for, which result in a hypersensitivity upon encountering the slightest, potentially opposing words, as they relate to said labels, creating at times unnecessary points of focus and direction that destroy discussion and willingness to think away from yourself or outside of yourself.
So, in other words, like for lack of a better term, like snowflakes, yeah.
Um,
Like the idea, like with
I
like
would,
no, I'm not like attributing any like goodness or badness to it. It's like people that are too sensitive to have any real conversation because of like uh what's the
and I
word?
want to stress if you're trying to depict the people that this kind of talks about,
Mm-mm.
this would be both on the left and right. It
No, no,
is
no,
not.
no. When I ask you questions or if I'm like saying something, just know that I'm picking my words super carefully. I just want to make sure that I understand. I'm not trying to make any prescriptive claims or descriptive claims about like what you're saying. I'm not trying to add anything. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm getting what you're putting out correctly. I was just
Yeah,
saying
right.
like I use the term snowflake because it's like something we're all familiar with. It's just like somebody that's like too sensitive to interact with something that somebody else is saying.
Right.
Is that what you were like trying to illustrate there? And it's
Uh,
based on I think I backtrack a bit here. Um,
they follow intuition, but they don't have a conviction in seeking truth. So I
mhm.
think if you don't have that conviction, then your intuitions politically speaking are gonna be dog shit.
I got you. You're saying like this like strong response to anything that disagrees with you is coming from
It's
not
emotion.
actually believing what you're saying because cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, well, another thing is people are just they get caught up in kinda like, the storytelling of words, you know? And, sometimes when you get caught up in that, you're focused on the wrong things, you know? Um,
Sure,
yeah.
I think that
Uh,
makes sense.
right.
It's a lot easier to make things seem to like a lot more grand when you're telling a story about it rather than just considering and like observing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it condenses reality in a way to where if you're abstracting within the words, it almost becomes like the full reality for you. Like reality becomes you within make believe almost. If that makes sense. When I say abstract thinking, because you know we can connect dots in reality,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like if you're fixated on words though, imagine the idea of abstracting within that. I mean, that's what I mean when like reality becomes you. It's just this condensed, insignificant, microscopic condensation of reality
I think
within
well,
a picture. You know,
yeah, I really like words, and I think I do like a lot of that abstracting, like you're talking about. But I'm like super aware that I'm doing it, and I don't let it inform my like objective views about uh.
that's great. Yeah, a lot of people they can't. I mean, they don't understand how to manage that.
Um, do you also want me to ask you if like anybody in chat has any questions about what you're saying? Because I think
Uh,
they seem pretty good for you. I'm not going to give you like a trolley question.
yeah, just any good questions.
So somebody says, if we keep the idea of the circle going, would this be akin to disrupting one's own imagination circle?
If the circle is ongoing. Well, once you become like, I think you become one with your imagination. And once you do that, it doesn't fucking matter. You're like a fucking enlightened fucking Chad, intellectual god. But yeah, that's my answer to that, I guess.
Okay.
Um, anything else, or is
No,
that
please go on.
okay?
I feel self-conscious about interrupting you.
No, it's fine. Wait, do I seem like I'm being like kind of a? I'm not like trying to be malicious or anything.
No, no, no. So I think you'll find with me that I don't really assume anything, and when I say things, I do my very best to only say what I mean, so that people don't like
Right.
pick up on extra stuff. I want you to feel free to explain
That's,
your theory to the best that you can. Just also when I stop you, it's just that I make sure that I'm on track with what you're saying, and that if anybody has any concerns here, because I want to understand what you're saying.
yeah,
And if anybody's here, like they're here because they want to hear what you're saying too.
Right.
It's all
Um,
good faith.
yeah, for sure, for sure. It is worth noting that the inherent power of imagination's essence, though being one that can undoubtedly set you free, is also one that can enslave you, assuming the power alone necessarily implies a kind of two sides
Oh no. Oh no, he froze.
of the coin balance. If this doesn't, yeah. Uh, oh,
I lost you
did you
for
hear
a
anything?
minute. Yeah, I think you were froze for a moment. Yeah, somebody said rewind. So I was actually taking note on it. It says imagination's essence can enslave, and then you cut off. Like 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 actually writing down notes.
Right. It is worth noting that the inherent power of imagination's essence, though being one that can undoubtedly set you free, is also one that can enslave you, assuming the power alone necessarily implies a kind of two side of the coin balance. If this doesn't make you think twice about the mind bending persuasiveness of an external tool used in the perpetuation of informational storytelling capable of spawning conviction out of social conformity without even needing a high threshold of evidence for any claimed values, then I don't know what would suffice. And if the term misinformation is to signal any importance, is it not implied that there would exist misinformed individuals in the sense that certain factors remain uncertain in their mind whether they follow along with or reject said information? Meaning, does being misinformed necessarily require what would possibly be considered misinformation? I believe this widespread distraction from the grand task of solving for causations and what causes said causation of a certain problematic variable manifest as excessive moralization defined in groupthink. And groupthink is made possible by the externality of social constructions of culture, which is constructed in language. We follow our intuition as it is filtered through the ego's emotional haze of naivety from the psyche into the imagination, and our interaction reflects our convictions. All our minds perceive clearly, but require you to step outside of yourself for a little bit to figure it out. You are not to be led astray by uncertainty.
Um, I feel like I would say probably like 60% of what you're saying. I think most people intuit about how they think, but they just don't necessarily lay it out that way. But I think that there's like an additional piece that I think a lot of people maybe miss out on is that and it comes up a lot when you're trying to have a conversation with somebody about really heavy topics. You kind of have to figure out um, which thing about what you're explaining they have already prior rejected, and then to see like where you're running into a roadblock if there's a disagreement. So you might have to take like 3 4 5 steps back to try to figure out. He said misinformation doesn't necessarily have to be caused by misinformation. Somebody could just not be leaving like a prior required idea that lead them to the conclusion that you're trying to express to them, right?
Well, let me put it this way. Even if you speak nothing but the truth, if I look at language as almost like a disease, even if you speak the truth, you are spreading disease. It's just hollow information. What is understood from that is, up to the people.
So why is that bad? Like, well, sorry, it's a disease. If you say disease, I feel like you're putting like a negative connotation on it, or is it you're just using disease for like the way in which it spreads?
Well, a little bit of both. That negative connotation, I'm ascribing it. I mean, I'm not. We can use language effectively. I mean, that's in our hands. That's what I'm saying. It's within our hands to be able to um, be aware of the limitations, right? I'm not. I'm like. I wouldn't say I'm anti-language. I don't think it's a matter of pro-language or anti-language. That is. I don't because I don't know what the alternative would be. I mean, obviously.
Good. I'm glad that we agree on that because I
Oh
think that
yeah.
would make the conversation a little bit more difficult. Not that I wouldn't be willing to try, but
Yeah. Okay.
um, so yeah, go on.
Okay. An interesting thought to me is if the consciousness is capable of abstract thought that allows us to connect the dots of reality, so to speak, it would then seem to me that, going off the idea of language being a microscopically condensed picture of reality, begging for metaphysical investigations at its core, that there can exist abstraction within the fixed propositioning, leading one to submit to illusion that abstracts something so insignificant and incomplete into a mini reality that becomes you in a sense. Corded into memory is the make believe that you cherish, and the cycle of enslavement to the mental machine continues as your externally altered perception now influences your interaction with what contents may be conjured within the imagination. And the imagination wielded by emotionally driven ignorance continues to be the source of one's own demise. And I have a little dumb summary at the end here. Uh, to sum it up, our imagination is a host to semantical hierarchy
Thank
that
you
manipulates us and
for the follow.
distorts
Thank everybody
reality,
for the follow.
twisting our worldview and declining growth of existential well-being if you don't stop to think.
Okay. Um, so I think part of when you were going through, and please 100% correct me if I'm wrong. I think part of what you're touching on is the idea that of like axiomatic beliefs that are just like unjustified. That like when we use language, we're taking a whole lot of things for granted just by having a conversation with each other
Right.
that we never really address. Is that part of what you're getting at?
Yeah.
Okay. So like the
That's
idea, what's that?
yeah. That's like that's on the dot. That's right.
Okay, so yeah, like the idea that like even like the idea that I exist when I'm having a conversation with you, it's like we're both sort of agreeing that we exist and that our words, like when I say something to you, it's going to mean the same thing to you. When you say it back, it's going to mean the same thing to me, which is just sort of obfuscating the fact that we don't really know that. So it's just sort of like it's interpreting or it's like sort of like externalizing this assumed reality that we have because like we kind of have to in order to get by.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily going to lead us to like the most honest explanation of like what's happening here.
Yeah.
Okay. um yeah, I mean I don't think anybody could disagree with that, and I think that
But
um
the thing is about that. I mean, so you're aware of what's known as linguistic determinism? Or have you?
yeah, like like the word assigns the meaning rather than is a descriptor of like what the like the teleology of an
Well, just
object.
that it has this influence on you that I'm trying to shed a light on. But the thing is about linguistic determinism is, to my understanding, is that like scientists shit on it. But I think what I'm saying here is really what that tries to like convey in a way. Well, I haven't like maybe it's something slightly different, but it seems to be my understanding that my idea is kind of in the vein of linguistic determinism. And like you said, I feel like it makes sense, but it's rejected this idea, which is what's
Um
interesting to me. But it seems common sense to me, like
yeah, I
just to
think that
think.
linguistic determinism is let's see. Just make sure that yeah, I'm really bad with like the names of things. I have a hard time
You know,
remembering
it suggests that like language, it influences your cognitive thought when you engage with it. I know it at least suggests that.
it consists of two systems. Uh yeah, I think that that's probably the case. Yeah, so like with the advent of language, I think it allowed us to think a lot to like a much higher level. It like puts our thoughts into like categories where we can actually organize them and sort of like test our ideas, whereas otherwise we didn't really have a great method for doing that.
We needed language for all of our creation.
Uh, yeah, like society or societies and civilization. There we go. Civilization didn't really take off super strong until language comes up, because not it's not just a means of communication, but it's a means of
Conceptualization.
constructing our reality. If we can't like put a tag on it, something, and it's very very difficult for us to define and interact with that thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's something I spent a good deal thinking about when I was a little bit younger, but I'm kind of fucking old, so yeah, I think it's an important idea to interact with.
Yeah. I
How
mean, it's
valuable
kind of
language
just
is.
about it's just about like how shit's happening, really, and that's what I'm interested in talking about is how is all this shit happening, and I see language as a core thing that needs to be brought up. That's how, like, because it seems like something that wouldn't be important, but I'm suggesting that it actually really is important. It feels like the core of a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that language is super important. I kind of I've said many times throughout my life, like I really like words.
Yeah.
And I work really hard to make sure that I'm using the correct ones when I talk to people. Um, I, I, I guess you could say like I kind of have like an obsession with like my language more so than other people's language. I always try really hard to make sure I'm using the correct words because it's very important to me that when I say what I'm thinking that I can get as close to the thought that's into my head into your head,
Right. Right.
which
Um.
is really difficult. Um, I have a big difficulty, which is something like one of the big things that I talk to my therapist about. It seems like when I talk to people, it seems like when two people interact through conversation, it's like I always feel like the other person, like has a game set up, and as soon as I start talking to them, I'm playing their game, but they never want to tell me what the rules are. So I just tell them like these are my rules. Like I understand you have your own game going on, but like these are the rules that I'm going to follow. You can choose to or not, but it's going to make things a lot more difficult for both of us. Since you don't want to tell me the rules of yours, you can just like decide if you want to accept mine or not. And mine is that I'm going to be very direct and literal with my words. If you're confused about what I mean, we can almost always refer to the dictionary unless I've made a mistake somewhere.
Yeah, we
Um,
have rules to our domain, and really, these rules cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, especially because they're withheld a lot. People, I think people take that for granted that they have like linguistic rules that they use, or like the rules like I don't want to say rules like it's like law, but it's like rules to a game, and like they know them super well because it's the game they play all the time. But like if you don't interact with them a lot, you don't really know what those rules are.
Yeah.
And I think that it's kind of an exhausting thing.
Yeah. Um. One thing that always bugged me, I guess this is especially a thing in debate culture, is not to say that you can't like infer that someone might be an idiot or something based on what they say. I mean, sometimes you can very well do that, and maybe it makes sense. But I feel like some people, if you mess up with words once, they will just like push a narrative that, oh, this guy is just stupid. And it's insane because when you think about it, all smart people, I mean, they're not just like consistently smart. I mean, all humans are really foolish, right? In a way. And it feels like we kind of have a culture where we don't want to accept that, right? And when people talk, we're super fixated on what they have to say. We're not just responding to what they're saying. We're responding to what they're saying. You know what I mean? We're like really fixated. And we try to make conclusions about how someone's mind works or what they believe, or are they stupid, like stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, I think correct me if I'm wrong. What you're saying is that when people are talking instead of or actually, it might be the antithesis of what you're saying is what I see a lot. It seems to me a lot when people are talking to each other. It seems like what I would take as the responding is that people seem to be trying to analyze and figure out what the other person's words mean, rather than like take the value of the words that they're saying at face value. Um,
Yeah, and you just get the impression from humans that they seem to seek your vulnerability. It's really sickening when you think about it. They seek vulnerability in your words.
Yeah, like to
because
try to
they
like
hate
pick apart
you.
what you're saying and like try to like show that you're wrong.
Oh, well, that and they hate you.
Oh, uh, I don't know. I don't think that I hate you. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
think that I hate
we
most
don't hate each
people.
other. I love you.
Sup? I love you too, buddy. You seem like a good guy. I think I
Yeah,
had a really hard time of understanding what you were trying to get across prior. Um,
yeah.
but I think that being able, so I have,
I was
uh,
distracted from the fucking main idea when I did those videos. God damn it. The
uh,
fucking words, dude, I'm telling you.
yeah, I think that I have a harder time with a lot of people do a lot of assuming when they're talking to people, and I have to ask clarifying questions. I need to make sure that I understand. I think that in order to engage with people linguistically, and to like an appropriate degree when we're trying to reach a level of understanding that like I think everybody's seeking when they're having a conversation. I think that it takes some humility in saying like I can't possibly know what everything they're trying to express means, and I have to engage with like an honest investigation. But a lot of times when you do that too, people get really defensive as well. Like you
One
should
thing
just
for
automatically know what they mean.
one thing for me about clarifications is it's kind of like you're submitting, and in a way some clarifications really undermine any potential validity you want to be able to demonstrate, right? Sometimes clarifications, they just want you to like discredit yourself, is how it appears to me sometimes.
Um, Yeah, I think some people use that as a way to dismiss what somebody's saying. But when I ask for clarification, um, it's essentially what I'm doing is I'm trying to peel back things that they might not mean. So I'll usually say like when I stopped you, like, hey, when you said this, did you mean this? And then if not, like I can come back and ask another question. I think it's really important when you do try to clarify what somebody's saying to them that you are like above reproach with your show of good faith to them, because I
Right.
think that just going to make things a lot more difficult for people, because like part of what you're talking about isn't isn't just like purely philosophical. It seems like part of it is like social.
Yeah.
So I think that some of the pitfalls that you're talking about with language can be avoided by good social practice. Do you
Yeah, and
agree with
I
that?
think some of those problems arise from language still, though, and that's one thing I'm still really trying to push.
Sorry, say that last part again.
So repeat what you said again, actually, because now I'm discarding the thought.
um so what I was saying is that part of what you're saying is, or part of the when we're talking about the pitfalls with language,
Yeah, yeah.
part of it is just sort of this like inherent uncertainty when we're talking to each other. But I think like the part that can like be really detrimental and then make it like a lot worse, and is also the kind of part that we can
Social
use to
practice.
fix it. Yeah, it was a social practice. Like
Right, and
when I'm talking to you, I don't think that you think that I'm trying to like deconstruct what you're saying in a way to use it against you. At least I hope not. It's
right.
that I'm asking you so that way I can have a better understanding, which shows that I'm I guess I'm sort of like expressing my naivety uh so that you can instead of like trying to pretend that I or assume that I know what you mean, just sort of kind of saying like I know that I can't know, so
So,
these are the things that I have to ask you so that I can know. And I think that a lot of people are afraid of doing that and instead assume. And if there's anything that can be interpreted as like threatening to an idea that you hold, people are going to assume it in a really negative way, which is why we need really
yeah,
good social practices to interact with each other, especially if it's more than just like surface level conversations, which still can sometimes get caught up in those traps as well.
yeah. And that's what I would call being reasonable. And one thing I distinguish from reason is information. I mean, sometimes it's not always I consider some logical people, I think, can emotionally apply their logic, and that's not exactly reasoning, right? Like, what about Ben Shapiro, like we could say he's smart. That's fair enough.
Sure.
Um, but he has fixation on this information that is not really relevant to any of the arguments that are being made against him. So in his mind, he is prioritizing information over reason, but he thinks it's logic. It's not really logical reasoning. It's logic, it's just not reasonable. He's not a very reasonable guy.
Yeah. He's, instead of listening for the information that's going to clarify the point, he's listening for information to discredit the point.
Yeah, it's all about the cause and effect thing, right? Kind of.
Because maybe.
Figuring out the cause of like what exactly is wrong with something and how it happens.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
'cause he's transphobic or whatever, I guess, or like he says transphobic shit.
Yeah, and probably a lot of other problematic things as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't assume it of his actual psychological mind state, but he says transphobic shit.
Yeah,
Kind
I think he's probably a grifter.
of. Yeah.
If not, I guess that's kind of scary to me. I think I choose to think that he's a grifter, because if not, the alternative is it freaks me out.
Yeah, he'd be it's a little bit evil if he's.
Yeah. Yeah, if you behave in the way that like presents in every way as grifting, but you're not, but you're intelligent enough to project that, then you're probably yeah, like evil and extra harmful then.
Yeah.
Um,
I
do you
read
have?
a
Oh, go ahead.
lot of conservatives seem to they link together mental illness with being inherent to homosexuality, which is not true. If anything, if they're going to discuss like mental illness and being gay, I mean that would come from maybe some like if something sexual like starts to like overrule your life, right, to where you can't make progress in your life, like you
Uh,
can call that mental illness, but that's not inherent of your sexual orientation. It has nothing to do with it. And I see Nick Fuentes talk about gay people being mentally ill all the time, and it doesn't make sense.
yeah, I think a lot of times, so like the way that people react to, especially like, I mean, it's a lot different now, but like if when I was in high school, I wouldn't be surprised at all if a lot of people who were openly gay struggled with mental illness, and I wouldn't attribute it to their sexuality, but rather than
Right,
how
right,
people responded to it.
right.
Because I think that that's being vulnerable enough to say something about yourself that people don't want to hear, and then having kind of like what would be most people's case would be like
Culture.
the worst fear of doing so, can really mess up how you're going to think. Like your mind's going to try to protect you from being more open and honest, which can
Right.
cause a lot of issues. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an emotional cope to your confusion.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I define it anyway, confusion.
Uh, oh,
Have found their sense of self, integrated the shadow, whatever you want to call it. Fucking.
yeah. Uh, is it, I don't know how to pronounce his name. How do you know how to pronounce his name?
Uh, uh,
Uh, Young. I don't know. I'm the guy who came up with the shadow.
oh yeah, is
Self.
that Jung? Is it Jung or
Jung. Yeah, it's probably Jung. I don't know. I'm bad. I'm
he?
super bad with names.
The stuff I've read from him, like he's based about like the imagination and shit. Like he says some really base stuff.
Uh, yeah. I try really hard when I read things about psychology to make sure that I don't the problem with some of like the more prolific figures in psychology, like Carl, is it Jung? Jeez, I'm just gonna say Jung. Uh, him and like Freud, they have like a lot of really good jumping off points. It just freaks me out when people try to like map everybody onto these ideas of thinking. Because like even like pragmatically, like what are the odds that these guys got it completely right on their first tries? You know, they just mapped everybody to it. But I think that they're really good lenses to consider things through. Just not good boxes to put people in. Does that make
Um,
sense?
Yeah, but much more like cynical, I guess. I mean, I think in reality, I truly think language has mind controlled the masses, or it's
Well,
influenced them heavily.
I kind of like how you said that because I think of language as the way that we control our own minds.
We
It's
control language.
yeah, it's I think of language as the tool that we use to like I think like without language, like
Hey,
our brain is kind of a car without a key.
hey, you want to know something?
What's up?
We are the tool, right?
Hmm. Maybe?
The psyche interacts. It's the application of being alive and existentially aware.
Sure. So wait, when you say psyche, like could we maybe substitute this for the word self?
Yeah, you could.
Okay. I think that makes it click in my head a lot better. Because I think when you say psyche, I almost like take it as like a separate part of like I would separate it from self. But if I put it in that term, it kind of everything seems to flow a little better. So then you say like uh the self interacts with the imagination, and then imagination informs the self, and
Yeah.
like we kind of have this like it's
So
almost like a capacitor starting the process, and then it just runs forever from there, and new information kind of get into the loop wherever it comes in. Is that a good description? Does that make sense?
the thing about information, you're talking about catching information in the
Thank you, come
imagination.
gremlin.
We perceive it like we are
Honored.
information. If we're like inspecting information, that's us. The information is us. Our imagination is a host to this this externality, and in a way, it is all us. It is created in our minds, and it is a part of our experience, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
I
a
would agree with
psych
that.
That's why I call it, an environment. It's a psychic environment, and that's where the whole adaptation, word comes in. That's why I like to say, we're adapting because we
I
adapt
think that
to
makes more
environments.
sense. Yeah, okay.
Scientific.
Yeah, because I guess I guess depending on like how you wanna how we wanna frame it, I would say that like everything only exists in relation to how we like attribute it, or sorry, anything only
Everything
exists
is us.
in which in everything only exists in a way in which we can like intuit properties in relation to ourself.
Yeah, I would just say everything is us.
Well, sure. Well, I don't know what everything is us. I don't know. I don't know if I would. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I understand what you're saying.
True.
Yeah,
It's just
because like my conceptualization of any object is like you said only is limited to uh
your
the system
experience.
in which the system is like my experience. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, yeah. I think that's like that's the only like reasoning you could really have about our relationship with what we would like think of as reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with that.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
what do you what do you think that people get wrong when they're interacting with like the ideas that you're talking about and maybe don't realize that they are? Where do you think that people are falling short? Well, like why it's important to lay this out?
Oh man.
What are the what do you think they get wrong the most, or what do you think is the most important point that they get wrong?
Well, I'm just
Uh,
trying to figure out how I want to word this, because I'll say something completely cynical, like an asshole, but you just have to be open-minded. You have to, well, you have to understand who you are before anything, and your place in existence. I mean, it's a whole thing. You have to, how do I want to put this? I believe people are not very empathetic to themselves or other people because they don't understand themselves. They run from their emotions. Um, So how could they empathize with anyone if they don't really know what entirely makes a human, right? So I think once this is a thing, if this is you, like if you don't realize that and you're not empathetic and you're naive completely and you project onto your imagination and the externality, um, you will get caught in the pitfalls, so to speak, as you were mentioning, of just everything. I mean, your mind will be altered, your worldview will be altered, and you will be shallow, kind of mean, but
Oh no, you don't have to be super concerned about niceties here. You let me worry about the niceties. I got you covered there, okay?
all right, all right. You look like a nice guy.
I do my best to be. Yeah, I think I am. But,
I think
maybe some people don't think so, but I don't usually run into those people.
fuck 'em.
And thank you too. Um, let's see. Word it as thoughts about reality feel from the inside like reality. Only thoughts about thoughts feel like thoughts from the inside. But it's all thoughts, actually. It's all a map, and the map is not the territory. That's what somebody in chat said.
I wasn't even following along with that. It
Oh,
was
oh.
too. Sorry if you want to repeat that.
Said thoughts about reality feel from the inside like reality,
Yes.
but thoughts about thoughts feel like thoughts from the inside. But it's all thoughts. It's all a map, and the map is not the actual territory.
That guy knows what he's talking about. That's approved.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, I think yeah, I think that like reality works in two senses. There's it really depends on how you look at it. I have a friend. She was really big on the phrase "When I die, so does the universe." And I think that you and I can both understand the truth of that, and also understand that like when she dies, I'm gonna be if she dies before me, I'll still be able to like understand and perceive her dead body laying there.
Right.
But like we're both right. It just depends on like the lens in which we're approaching the subject.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's a big problem too? It seems like everybody has kind of like their own like special like loop in which they're viewing things through, and when we have like only the
Yeah.
same set language, we're gonna get confused because we're mapping these definitions just like
Right. We
uh
have this optical spectra, but one language, right?
yeah. I think that's part of the thing that you're getting at. It's kind of like the problem with qualia, like how I think you might have talked to this about Will, like my red might be your blue, which has like almost no impact on anything.
Yeah.
But when we take that onto like my sadness might be your frustration, and we could get into some pretty heavy misunderstandings.
Yeah.
Or like my evil is your what would be a good like apathy. Like then we might be having like very different conversations and not realize it. And just be misinforming each other rather than actually creating an understanding.
Yeah.
Is that kind of at the heart of what you're talking about?
Semantics is definitely a problem, yes.
Yeah, I always try to let people know too. I'm not a pedantic guy.
Yeah.
I think I come off as really pedantic when I like check people's words, and I'd say it's important to me that we're using the right words because I really want to understand. And if words are similar but not the same, I don't want to I don't want to try to draw any conclusions from what you're saying unless I know what you're saying. It's just like it feels like I feel bad, like I'm not working hard enough to represent you to me. Like I feel like I step in between myself a lot between another person, and I try to be the other person's best representative to myself.
No, you're doing an amazing job, if any.
Well, I have a lot of practice at that. Probably just because I'm crazy, to be honest, but because I don't know a lot of people that feel the need to do that. But I think I feel bad if I misunderstand somebody and I know I didn't take the steps to necessary to um, eliminate as many roadblocks as I could.
No, you're doing amazing, and I also don't
Thanks.
expect it of you anyway.
I guess I wish people expected that more of each other more often, because I think people misunderstand what I say a lot, which is
Yeah.
very, very frustrating when you're, I think I'm really literal. So it's just very frustrating when I feel like the majority of the time you could just go to the dictionary and write down the definitions of all my words, and that's exactly what I mean. But it doesn't come across to people a lot like that, because we discussed earlier, people are always kind of picking apart the things and like trying to find a lot of times it seems like there's like a motivated reasoning for like the direction in which they're moving to try to figure out what you're saying. They're trying to
Yeah.
make they're trying to make what you're saying fit what they think you're going to say ahead of time.
Yeah. And they seek that vulnerability too. It's like any chance they get, they will attack, the limitations of language, I guess, in a way. Because, you can, certain things people say, if it's related to any ideas they have in their head, not some ideas may connect. And if you're representing one idea, it might not, exactly represent something that precedes that idea and may be important to know about, if that makes sense, if you're following.
Yeah, yeah, kind of like what we talked about earlier when you said like you don't need misinformation for somebody to be misinformed. If they just don't accept like a prior required idea to
Right.
understand something, then they're already going to be looking at what you're saying through a lens that doesn't allow for them to hear you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, kind of hard to do on the fly. Say if I
Yeah.
see
And see, some people would be like, "Oh, you're an idiot. You can't even fucking
constructed.
think of it." Words are fucking hard, man. That fucking cognitive navigation.
Oh, ideas are hard, and then you have to apply words to them.
Yeah.
Like a cohesive idea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, like I really struggled yesterday. I feel like I had a half of a really well constructed point about I was discussing with some people about the idea of like what even is personal identity. And I had like a half of a thought, and I was like, I need you guys to help me out here. I'm gonna fumble over my words to try to express what I'm getting at, and
Yeah.
you just say stuff at me while I'm doing it and help me figure this out.
Wouldn't it feel so much better if you didn't feel that societal pressure that you're gonna sound like a dumb fuck? And it feels like people really could do a better job of just kinda people don't really try to understand what you're saying. If your words don't make sense, it's done for them. They just give up on trying to find out, it feels like, right?
Yeah, I guess people tend to relate your ability to articulate with your ability to reason.
Even if you say something that may not make sense from a technical perspective, I may still get this understood idea. Like I'll be like, "Oh, well, I know what you're trying to express," and just because this part of the sentence isn't correct, that's not gonna vanish. Like I really know what you're talking about, even though it didn't make sense linguistically. And people seem to not. They're not as in touch with that. Like one thing I try to say is that everything is understood in a way. It's just understood whether if something is understood, it doesn't matter how it was understood. Maybe you could find a problem within grammar, but something was still understood and you got the message that may have been intended.
Yeah, I do think that there's some value with confirming that, just because I really don't like the idea of misunderstanding people and then like running off of it. Are you familiar with Anton LaVey?
No.
He's the founder of the Church of Satan in the United States, 1964, and
Nice.
yeah, he's. I think you'd really like his writings. And there's a book he wrote called Satan Speaks, and I think that's where he's listed in there that the accepting of a single. You know what? Hang on a minute. I'll just pull up the quote here. Anton LaVey standing. I really really like yeah, and like kind of like you're saying too. Like I have the I know what it means, but putting it into words sometimes is a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Like I
That's why
guess
they It's a distraction from what you really know, right?
Yeah, and you know what then? I guess in that vein, instead of trying to exactly quote him, I can paraphrase it just fine. Is that when you start to accept uh a false piece of information, it's the undoing of all knowledge. And I think about that one a lot. Um, and I don't know, I don't, I think that it's true, and I sometimes I go back and forth between thinking that maybe it's just the idea that you're going to be more
Read that again,
susceptible.
actually.
Uh, the acceptance of one false idea is the undoing of all knowledge.
Acceptance as in, okay, so you're convinced of something that is not
Yeah,
true.
yeah, internalizing something that is simply not true, like uh,
Then it destroys
your
all of
ability to reason. Yeah, I would say. Well, I don't know if I'd say destroys it. Like it's the undoing of it. It sets you down the path of being able to reason improperly.
Oh yeah, if you believe something that's not true, it's not good.
I think what freaks me out is that I think that I've talked to a lot of smart people where you can like categorically show them that something isn't true, and they can still like they can follow all the steps and still
Yep.
deny like the fact of the matter. That freaks me out.
There's there's like a balance, right? I think there is some due logical skepticism that can be applied in reality, but logical skepticism, obviously, not all not in all the ways skepticism manifests.
Yeah, I would say it when it comes to like just reasoning. So like yeah, logical.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I can see somebody.
Skeptologicism.
What's that?
Skeptologicism. I coined that term right now.
Skeptologicism. I'm writing it down.
It just already exists.
Uh, that'd be funny. Um, I know when you talked to Will, you kind of brought it up. Where did you? I so your explanation for where you came up with this was you said you did a lot of your own thinking on it and music. What kind of music makes you puts you into this kind of mindset?
Technical metal.
Technical
But
metal?
yeah, not technical death metal, technical metal. You've ever heard Spiral Architect?
No. Where's Key of Weird at? Is Key of Weird still here? I'm gonna demand an explanation of what technical metal means from him if he is. Have you ever seen Key of Weird?
Keel Weird?
Key of Weird. Yeah, he's the guy that did the Boundaries review. The review for the album Boundaries by Mr. Girl.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Uh he's a really good streamer. He does all music. Like his whole thing is like music. On
Okay.
Monday, we make him listen to songs and then he tells us why they're bad.
Oh, dude,
Um,
that's me. Like, I'm a critic. I shit on so many bands, and I'm gonna make videos shitting on bands, and I'm gonna get hate. Like, I hope you're ready to
oh,
like
it's
defend me. I'm gonna get
he
hate.
gets a lot of hate. And he's so charitable too. It's funny. He
Let me.
must not be here.
I'll make everyone hate me right now. Animals as leaders, shit band, terrible, garbage, and I'll tell you why in a video in the future. I'm
Okay,
gonna go ahead and
not
put that out
technical
there.
metal. So when I Google technical metal, I get technical death metal. Is like what pops up
Yeah, that's what
everywhere.
sucks to me. People don't know what technical metal is.
Like Dream Theater?
Spiral Architect, that's well, technical metal. What it is, it's a very not well known subgenre of progressive metal, and what it means is that it's progressive metal, but it's more technical than stuff like Dream Theater. Dream Theater is kind of more conserved.
I feel like
If
you're
you
describing Tool.
No, Tool. Oh man, I'm sorry if you like Tool.
I love Tool, but I would say that they're
Tool's
technical and it
bad.
is progressive metal.
Tool's not bad, by the way, but
I thought you said Tool is bad. I was like, all right, I didn't think we were gonna argue on this stream, but we can argue if you want. No.
they're not bad, but they're not complex as the fans make them out to be.
I think that they're just complex enough. I think if they went further than that, it would be less like aesthetically enjoyable.
You got to listen to Spiral Architect. They're their album A Skeptic's Universe came out in 1999, and their album I still consider to be more technical than any of the modern band's efforts in progressive metal.
Would you put like Annihilator as technical metal?
They're like classic prog, right? Or like prog thrash metal.
It says technical thrash and speed metal.
Techno thrash, that's what it was called in the 80s. I wasn't
Gotcha.
alive.
Fucking subgenres, dude. It all gets so confusing.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter the genre name, but of course, but
Well, I guess I'm just trying to understand. Like you're talking about technical metal, but not technical death metal. So I was just trying to see if I had some examples so I could figure it out.
I'm gonna make a video going into my problems with modern metal,
Uh-huh.
uh, compositionally. There are certain things I have like my own internalized objective measurements I can use to identify a good metal song and a bad metal song.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I
And
think that'd be pretty cool.
yeah, which we could talk about that, or we could talk about other shit. That's whatever.
We can talk about whatever you want. You still got some time with me here.
Um, yeah, you should listen to Spiral Architect, A Skeptic's Universe. Everyone should check that out, I guess, since we were talking about it.
You should send me some links after this so I know what to look at.
Okay.
I would really like to see you put you should join the Q Weird Discord and put one of your songs in there. I'd really like to see your guys' back and forth because I think I understand really well how he thinks about music and you have really strong opinions. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
I
writing an
don't
album, and I haven't recorded anything yet. But I'll record a demo. I've been thinking of recording a demo to just kind of give a taste of what it is, I guess. Because I was
Yeah.
thinking at first, I was like, I don't want to do a demo because it might could like I don't want to like ruin the aesthetic of the album just emerging out of nowhere per se.
Oh, sure.
Uh, but I was like, metal demos and metal are okay. I think just as like treating it as like a little spin to like expect what's to come.
Well,
And
instead
it,
of a
can-
demo of the album, it could be a demo of what your idea of the kind of metal you're shooting for is.
yeah, and the audio quality it can be a little bit scuffed, so it's not like the full.
Right.
You'll be excited for the full thing when it comes out. I have
Yeah.
a
Do you
song.
have a band?
Uh, Currently, it is just me, and I'm writing songs, and then I'm going to have to find band members on the internet because I don't have like anybody local that plays music, and if they do, they don't play any kind of technical metal.
Sure.
So I'll have to, whenever I record one song, I guess I'll post it on my YouTube and try to send a message looking for people that play.
You should do that. I would be really interested in seeing what you got.
Yeah.
Because I think I listen to just metal, like just generally speaking, metal. I don't really have like any hard stops when it comes to like subgenres. Well, maybe I don't like some of the more
You don't
I don't.
listen to death metal?
Well, so I don't mind death metal, but like when it's like death metal, do you know who Paths of Possession is?
Paths of Possession?
Yeah. Well, do you know who George Fisher is?
I'm familiar with the name. I forget
He's
what band he's in.
he's the first. I think he's the shit. He might be the current one. Cannibal. He's the vocalist for Cannibal Corpse. That's not. It's like super deep and heavy, but like very clearly articulating his words too.
That's Corpse Grinder, right? You're talking about.
Yeah. I think that's his moniker.
Yeah, I didn't have his name cemented in my head. Cannibal Corpse is kind of like
Yeah, Corpse Grinder. Yeah. he had another band called Past the Possession, and I think that was the first time I ever heard death metal song where I was
And
like, oh, that's my shit.
and then he has Monstrosity, right? His other death metal band. I think it's called Monstrosity.
Yeah, it is. I just Googled it.
Yeah.
So it just depends. As long as sometimes with death metal, I feel like a lot of the like technical aspects can get sort of like lost because like
Well,
depending on like how it's mixed.
so here's the difference between tech death and technical metal, like Spiral Architect. They're both technical, but the death metal has like a more brutal tonality.
Hmm.
Imagine just like heavy metal, but technical. It's not the
Um,
brutality.
okay. I think I don't know.
It's
See,
more
like I always get so confused because that kind of sounds like Mudvayne. What that makes me think of Mudvayne.
Mudvayne ain't got shit on Spiral Architect.
Well, I'm not saying that they're better or anything like that, but
Well,
that's
I
just the way
wasn't.
you're describing it. Would seem to because like they're very technical with how they plot all the stuff out. Oh, Kia Weird's here. Uh, so what's the name of the band again?
Spiral
Spiral
Architect.
Arcade.
The Skeptic's Universe is their
Okay.
only album.
And what? And you said it's instrumentally like death metal,
No, it's not
but
like
not
that.
brutal.
It's just technical metal, man. You
Okay.
have to listen and find out.
All right. I'm gonna listen and find out. I want I really hope that I'm gonna bug Kia Weird to do something about it so we get a better understanding of it
Okay.
because
He's gonna review the album.
well no I just want to no I want him to I'm gonna charge him with explaining what technical metal is and get him to listen to a song of this band and explain it to me because he's the music brain.
He ain't gonna know more than me.
Oh, you just got called the fuck out, dude. Uh well cool. You know what though then I really you should hit me up. I'll give you a Discord link. Put one of their songs in the music share night. I want to see you guys argue about it. I want to see him.
We were assuming he's gonna hate it. What if he likes it?
No, I'm assuming he's going to disagree with you about something about it.
Uh,
Because if there's one thing he said you're right. He will not know more. Yeah, I don't think that like he's going to be an expert or anything like that. I just think that even if he likes somebody's music, he's probably going to disagree with them about things. And I
I
like
would go
that.
as far as to say, Spiral Architect, A Skeptic's Universe, as art, it is objectively the best creation of man musically. It is just the best album, not even metal album. The best album.
What's it called? Creation of the Universe?
Skeptic's Universe.
Skeptics Universe. Oh, he said you'll just know more about metal in general.
Yeah, I'm the metal guy. But also, I listen
He's
to
supposed
some.
to be the metal guy. And he
Listen
conceded
to
that to you already. Huh.
lots of love to him.
Me 1 minute. I need to get this. Oh wait, no, I don't. I have beverage right next to me on the floor.
Oh
So,
fuck my mic.
oh no, did your boom fall?
Kind of just getting lifted off the ground a bit. It's fine. You can talk about whatever.
What do you think about music as a form of um? So I guess you said you get a lot of your ideas from just thinking about them and then from music. Do you think that music's a good medium to communicate? Like over
The best.
traditional?
I mean, it's a
The
window.
best?
Yeah, it's a window into reality.
Can you explain that?
Well, right. when we listen to music, think about it, it's cathartic, and we try to be absorbed in it to, like, kind of we're trying to, like, come to sense with our reality, kinda like, whenever we listen to it, and, trying to be poetic on the spot, but, yeah, well, music is about life. You've never heard, anyone say that? Like, when you listen to music, it's resonating with your existence, basically. And I think there can be very powerful, messages to be, interpreted into, kinda like, understanding yourself or whatever. A scuffed explanation. Did that translate for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and I have something to say about it, but Key of Weird wants to know if you like Behold, the Arctopus. Is that two different
Uh,
bands?
I like Behold the Octopus, but, that's gonna be a very, like, much personal taste thing because they're very, harsh to listen to, I think. But
That's
I think
pretty good.
anyone that's viewing it objectively, the creativity is there. There's just so much thought behind it, so it is good music, whether you like to listen to it or not, but it's understandable if you don't like to listen to them.
No, no, he said ask him if he likes
Oh, yeah.
them. I can almost guarantee he likes them. That's pretty good. He just came back here like 10 minutes ago. That's a pretty good read, Key. I'm not gonna lie. I know nothing about them at all. I have no clue. I'm just impressed that he was able to ascertain that.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah, Behold the Octopus is, I like their first 2 albums because their, later stuff, their most recent album, it's very experimental what they've done with the percussion in it, and, they use, like, atmospheric dissonance is kinda what they do on their most recent record. It's kinda like very, down-tempo, um, ambience, discordant ambience, and then the percussion is like, I don't even know they use, like, fucking weird shit for the percussion, it's like objects, and they bang on it, and it's not the tonality of, like, an actual drum set, it's like it gives it a tribal feel, the album is very tribalistic, and there's just this kind of, like, slow trudging, dissonance that kinda you get lost in it because the melodies don't progress fast all the time like they usually do in their work. So it's something you kinda get lost in, and that percussion is a part to really pay attention to as well. I think it's really fun following along with the more tribalistic, rhythms, and they almost kinda give melody to the drums, like the drums become melodic in a way. It's pretty cool. They're definitely a harder album to listen to than their first. Their first albums were more like traditionally technical metal.
Well, you'd
Like
hate my fucking music.
melody forthright, and very like a focused, engaging composition, and they force you to follow along. If you don't follow along and you're thinking about other things while listening to the music, you will not be able to comprehend it. But if you comprehend it, it's so you just realize the creativity. There's so much thought behind it, as it correlates to everything in the song, like, relates to each other, and it's actual good songwriting, which is hard to find in most modern metal that's technical. Because people conflate technicality with, complexity, and technicality is not inherently complexity. If something's going to be complex in technical or progressive metal, well, some things you might look for within, let's say, a riff is a distinct melody, and a distinct melody that has a rhythmic variance, a nuance to it, and to where you could ascribe differentiated values on the different notes, right? And it kind of gives it a more powerful, disjointed feel where you want to put it. And if you have this distinct melody going, and you develop it into something with the rhythm. If you know which part you're going to go into, make it to where it develops into that part naturally. Um, I said animals as leaders is like trash. The reason I say that, um, I don't remember the names of any of their songs at the moment, but they have songs where they just open up with a riff. It's not an intro, there's no intro sequence, it's just opening with a riff, which can be okay sometimes. But their riffs, they're all 16th notes. You can do that and it can be good, but they don't have distinct melody. Animals as leaders, their note patterns they're two scalar to where it's almost all in a clustered predetermined set of notes, so the melody lacks distinction. So what you have is just like rapid 16th notes where the notes are not assigned any greater power to each other. And then instead of developing that, I mean, that's already a piece of trash riff, but instead of developing from there to try to salvage it, the next riff will just be thrown in and have no relation to that riff. There won't be a transition. There won't be a development of rhythm and leading into like a new theme that relates to the previous theme. Like Animals as leaders will just throw in a technical part just as a gimmick because it's not complex. You can just see that they picked up the guitar and started noodling, and that's how they create the riffs. It's a window into seeing if did they apply the thought. I'm convinced with so many Animals as leader songs that they literally, if you play guitar, you know this, like sometimes when you're shredding, you just feel it out and you come up with a riff. I mean, and it's mostly going to be dog shit riffs because you're not thinking about it and it's not a distinct melody. And that's the trap that they fall into. And their songs are riff salads. They throw everything together. There's no use of foreshadowing. There's no strong, cohesive artistic message. And that's a problem with a lot of modern technical and progressive metal and metalcore.
He asks if you know music theory.
No.
Or what you know about music. No? Okay, you just have a certain understanding of the kinds of music that you like, yeah?
Yeah, and people have a misconception that music theory has anything to do with composition. If anything, it's like language, it's a communication system, and the use of music theory would be applied in like improvisation, so you can play off each other. A composition's planned out, so what does music theory have to do with it? You can identify what you're playing with music theory, but that's what that is. That's it.
I don't know. He doesn't know a lot of music theory. We kind of watched some stuff on his stream about music
Theory's
theory,
not
and it's
bad. It's just not related to composition. That's a misconception. And knowing music theory does not make you know more
yeah,
about music than someone else.
music theory is about the why, not the how, right? If I'm understanding correct.
It's just like it tells you what it is. It's language.
Yeah, it's descriptive, not prescriptive, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. I don't know anything about music theory. That's just what I gathered from like the one video that I watched on his stream. I'm just trying to make sure. I think you know a lot more music about music than I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, he said that he thinks that music theory is the language of Western music. I would agree that with that. Music theory is the language, yeah, of Western music. Okay, yeah. Hey Joe, you missed the big language part, but it'll be vodded up. We're talking about metal, and honestly, this part I just kind of have to sit and listen because it's so over my head. I don't like you. I could just say like you wouldn't really like my music, I'm sure. I think that some of the things I like have some really like complicated and like misunderstood variables that get overlooked really easily, but it's not compositionally it's not very complicated, but I'm like totally okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's one thing, man. The people that are gonna hate me, what I want to try to explain to them is that we can have personal taste can coexist with is a song objectively good or bad. Like Spider-Man 3, completely shit movie, but I love it because it's funny as fuck, so I'm enjoying it somehow. Looks like it didn't have to be a good fucking movie for me to look at fucking Tobey Maguire fucking dance. That shit's funny as fuck, and I love watching that movie. It's a dog shit movie.
I like
Don't
bad
get so
movies.
mad when I say music is bad or good. It's just like, you know, and I'm not putting a gun up to you saying you can't fucking listen to it anymore. I mean, geez. I'm just a guy on YouTube.
Yeah, by the way, what is your YouTube channel called? Is it just thrashing
Thrashing?
underscore rage?
Yeah, and that's the name of a Voivod song.
Who is that? Voivod? Voyvod?
That's classic thrash.
Gotcha. Um, I gotta, we talked about it so much now. I gotta see. I'm just gonna listen to a quick little clip of the song because I don't wanna get a strike or anything. Skeptics Universe, is that what it's called?
Mm.
Was that the band or the
The album.
what's the band called again? I wrote it down. Where's it at?
Spiral Architect. And their
Oh,
name actually is like homage to a Black Sabbath song, which is cool. So there's a Black Sabbath song called Spiral Architect.
I don't know if I know that one. I like Sabbath. Pretty good. Let's see. I gotta hear something of this. We talked about it too long. I'll play a little clip of
Spinning.
Conjuring Collapse.
Oh,
Spinning?
okay.
Oh,
Well, whatever you want to pick.
okay, I'll go spinning. It's the first one. Maybe I should listen to it first. Uh, there we go. Okay. I don't want to be too crazy with it. And I also don't want to, I don't know, listening to a song on stream makes me feel too much like my beard's better than it is. That's a joke for one of my friends. It's yeah, it's a lot cleaner than I expected it to be. So like
Yeah,
death metal tends to like I don't really like the mixing in a lot of death metal.
yeah, it's not death metal. That you know, it's
Yeah,
more. You can hear the melodic content very well. It's very clearly melodic, but it's also very mathematical. So the melody is kind of hard to follow along with. But it's very melodic. It's funny
yeah,
that it's funny that melodic metal is the name of a subgenre because that really doesn't make sense in a literal sense, though.
because all metal should be melodic.
Yeah, I mean, because
It's
yeah,
like
just melody is
music
every.
should be. Yeah,
Really, what melodic metal means is, I guess that it's going to be like a catchy pop melody kind of metal, you know.
yeah. I would guess based on that name that it would be like that's a central theme to
Not to shit
the.
on all melodic death metal, because there's some classic mellow death bands. Don't want to shit on it.
I don't know. I don't have super strong opinions about a lot of the subgenres of metal because I kind of stick to like my own little like spaces in music. Um, I mean, I've actually been branching out a little bit more lately, but I think that everything that I like, you would probably hate.
Maybe. I mean, I'm very honest with if I don't like something, but I'm not a dick, though, you know. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Most people that like really think about their music a lot probably don't like my music. And then I can get caught up in the trap of trying to explain how it's actually more complicated than I think than it comes off as. I don't know. I don't know. I just when people hang around me, I try to just hand them my phone, like you can put on whatever you want.
yeah.
I gotta say, my first impression of like when you were talking to Will and he showed me a little clip of yours, I thought that you sounded a lot more incoherent to me
And
than you are when I was able to actually ask you questions.
yeah, I'm a little bit autistic.
Actually? Or
Well, I'm not diagnosed, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe they would diagnose me. Diagnose me
okay.
with anything.
So are you say you just like struggle with like certain parts of like communication?
Yeah,
Or
I've theorized that part of it is maybe me rejecting language so much in a way, which is kind of funny to think about. It might be my resistance that causes it.
I think that a lot of the things that you say, at least the way that we've discussed them makes a lot of sense to me. But I mean, yeah, it maybe it's just more it's possible that it's just more apparent to you because you fall into the frustrating ramifications of it. Well, like I said too, I have a hard time dealing with having conversations with like the average person a lot who's not like used to having like really heavy conversations because like I said they're always playing some kind of game and I just I get really frustrated that I don't know the rules because nobody wants to tell you. So maybe
Game,
maybe that's why it resonated. Huh?
just like when you think of the word game, like it just seems to have a negative connotation to me. Like, why would you even want to play a game?
Oh, I definitely have a negative connotation to this. I
Oh, yeah,
think
yeah. I wasn't accusing you. I was.
yeah, I would say that like when people do that, when I perceive that people are like playing some kind of like game with their words, it always it's very frustrating. But I guess there's a part too that like I don't know if people even know that they do that. That's just how they talk. It just sucks to be on the other end and not know how to interact with it.
Yeah, they don't understand why they do it. It's just like I said, it's more of a an adaptation,
Yeah, I think so.
and they don't right. Their convictions are not set in actually seeking the truth and the right way to find that, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, I think that a lot of times people just talk because they want to talk. And I really like talking, but I like to have a reason for doing it.
Yeah.
So were you gonna get a new video where you're kind of laying out things a bit more clearly, kind of like we did?
Uh,
Are you actually working on this? Like this, you're what would you label this idea of yours? At least
I
you
think
said
I
it.
called it the adaptive imagination theory.
So,
Then I had those premises or whatever
yeah,
came up with right before the conversation. Fucking scuffed. I'm just like going with it, you know what I mean?
yeah, AIT. Yeah, is this something like you think about this a lot? Do you put a lot of time into this?
Um, oh man, that's a hard. Well, it's complex. It's like I mean, when I do devote some thought to it. Yeah. I mean, I don't try to center. I don't think my life is centered around any kind of quest relating to these problems, though, because I'm kind of a bit more, well, I guess, cynical.
Why?
Um, uh, well, God, there's no way for me to put it other than something that sounds kind of downerish, but I mean, you just look around, modern times, what's happening, how it, if you know why and how it's happening, then you're like, well, you're kind of fucked, huh?
Well, I guess what's it?
What?
I'm not 100% sure what you say, like it's happening, why it's happening, like what's it? Like just like do
Um,
you mean just like societal change?
yeah, well, the manipulation of one's mind through externality is just, I would say.
Sure. I think like the biggest propagator of that would probably just be like marketing.
creation and its perpetuation. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I
The
took
the
it.
the narratives and stuff or whatever.
Yeah, it's all marketing. I
Yeah.
took I took a 2-year course on marketing, and it's interesting. But I think you can use it positively too. You can find out what people are already interested in and kind of like get them to like
I guess I just see
put out their
people
own ideas.
uh I see people as invested in like a make believe world in a way.
Uh, yeah, I think that there's a lot of like over idealizing of things. A lot people tend to get caught up in I was just talking to somebody else about this. I think people like the idea that like there's something special going on and they're in on it. So if they can find an idea that'll let them like run with that, they'll grab onto it really hard. And which is makes it really easy for them to be misled, to like allow themselves to be misled.
Yeah, they're not solving for anything, right? It's just kind of like it comes on to them, and like you said, they grab onto it.
Yeah, I think it's what happens with things like and I don't know how you feel about this, but like QAnon, I think like a lot of people grab onto that because it makes them feel like they're part of something big and special, even though it's just like a bunch of like vague cryptic words. They'll take whatever way that the most pragmatic person who wants to talk about, not pragmatic, the most uh like the loudest person who talks about it, they'll just like accept whatever they say about it because now they're in on it and they're special because they agree. You know what I mean? It's like they know the secret.
Yeah,
And I think that that kind of way of thinking and that type of behavior and latching onto things extends pretty far out in our culture. It doesn't have to be as something as big as like QAnon is for people to like latch onto and sort of like uh, like bury themselves in to like feel that uh, illusion of like grand purpose. You know, people aren't okay with just being people. Like nobody just wants to be like what they are. They always want to be something a little bit more, so they're willing to accept a bunch of lies if it gets them to that. I think it seems like it's the case, and that
yeah,
might be why they why we have a tendency to bend and twist words all the time too.
yeah.
Or
And
maybe I'm wrong and full of shit too. That's totally a possibility. I think people don't have enough humility when it comes to trying to understand things, especially when it comes to understanding each other.
yeah, we dehumanize people because we don't understand what creates our urges fundamentally. They don't know what it is about humans. They would rather just like kind of say, "Oh, you were born some evil asshole or something." They don't really comprehend why somebody would do something. It's back to what I was saying earlier about the empathy, which is very important. Here's the thing. Here's reality to me. It's funny because a lot of people identify as empathetic. I mean, it seems to me, based on reality, I consider actual empathetic people to be extremely rare. Like it's probably, um, well, I don't want to say a specific percent, but like it's minuscule. Like all the people that think they're empathetic, they're not actually empathetic.
Well, are they not empathetic? Or are they not accurate in their interpretation of empathy? Because empathy is imagining what somebody else feels like.
They
That can be
might think they're
inaccurate.
doing a good job, but yeah,
Yeah,
they're and
yeah,
that's
that's
they
true.
don't understand the urges. They don't understand why they have the feelings that they run from, right? When they try to be the perfect idea of who you're supposed to be in society, right? It's like that collectivist mentality and trying to seek validation from others. It's kind of where you place your self worth. I call it materialism. That's what I consider a materialistic sense of self. It's like an external sense of self, and it's all dependent on validation from others and kind of being part of that group.
Yeah, I think so. Um, but I maybe that's part of it too. I think that we're pretty we're like social creatures to a fault. Being grouped together is sort of like instead of instead of like joining a group to like find a purpose, I feel like for a lot of people that just is the purpose, which is okay to an extent.
You cut out a little bit.
Oh, sorry. So I think a lot of people, I think they join a group to help like understand or find a purpose, but for a lot of people, it just ends up like being their purpose, which is okay to an extent.
And that's why it's kind of the reason I call it materialistic as well is because to me, it kind of seems like you're making yourself an object of reality, right? Because you're dependent on like you're worried about how you are perceived by others, so you're an object in that sense, an object of others' perceptions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's a very terrible mindset. God.
Why?
Oh well,
Like, what's
that's like that's antithetical to the whole actually integrating the shadow thing or whatever.
sure?
Understanding the human nature, why we feel things, what those feelings mean, um, what does life entail? Just like shit like that.
Uh, yeah, I think it just helps build up the illusions on people. Yeah, I think that this part of the conversation is really informative to the first part of the conversation. I think you do. It'd serve you really well to talk about some of these things prior to laying out your theory. I think it helps like build people up to that, and like it's like when Will first showed me your first video too. The other thing I would say is if you can try to um limit the use of some of the more philosophical terminology. He told me like he wrote the transcript for all of your videos, then he had to like break down and look at things because I think that what you're saying actually is a lot more valuable than I thought originally. Um, so like he showed me a clip of yours right before he went on stream with you because I was streaming with him, and he said, "Did any of that make any sense?" You said, "Yeah, I understood every single word that he said." I was like, "I don't know how much value what he said holds, but like yeah, all those words made sense to me." I think I just am just by happenstance, I just happen to like really, really enjoy philosophy and really delve into that stuff. Because you use a lot of big words when you talk about this stuff. I think you might lose some people who could probably use the ideas that you're putting out the most. I think if a lot, I think there's a pretty big overlap of people who would use the kind of terminology used to describe your adaptive imagination theory that would probably already agree with you for the most part. And I'd like to be able to see you explain that better to people who um,
Yeah,
would
you
be
just
more in need of that understanding.
yeah, and I am mindful also. I mean, for me personally, I would like I have to kind of like walk the line of not manipulating people though, because I do not, even if someone claims to be on with me and understand what I'm saying,
Hmm.
I mean, that has to be true. If that's not true, I don't even want you to fucking like agree with me or support me. It's like if you don't fucking get it, figure it out. I don't want you to agree with me just to agree with me, and I don't want to manipulate your mind. Definitely not.
I think there's a difference between making something accessible and making it manipulative.
Yeah, right. I'm just saying there's that line. I'm just like mindful of it. But what you said, in its own sense is true.
Yeah, it's almost like there's like a barrier to entry into this conversation, which I mean to some degree, like if you're not sort of like pushing yourself to think outside of like conventional means about like how we interact with each other, you're probably not going to hear it even if you understood the terminology. Um, but I just think that it would be I like I said, I think that what you're saying is valuable, and I think you have a good energy about it when you talk about it. A lot of people don't when they talk about some bigger philosophical ideas. So
Right.
and I'm not saying like this is like demonstrably the right thing to do or anything. I just think that Uh, I it would make me happy to see you be able to broaden out what you're saying, so that more people could kind of just like be able to engage with these ideas. Because I don't think a lot of people talk about the concerns that you have with how people interact with each other, and I think that we're like when you say like what's happening right now, I think one of the biggest things that's happening is that people are having a really really hard time talking to each other.
Yeah, and more so than the cause, they're focused on the effect, to put it simply. And that's a problem.
Yeah, I think a lot of
It's easy
times too.
to get caught up
Oh, what's that?
it's easy to get caught up in that.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to get caught up in not understanding that like the opposition to your ideas isn't usually other ideas. A lot of times it's getting treated like it's the people on the other end is the opposition rather than the ideas that they hold to, which
And why,
is
and why
unfortunate.
are they the opposition? That's important.
What's that?
And what else is important is why are they the opposition?
Yeah.
Why is there opposition? Have to get, it's a whole puzzle, you know. Well, you have to just find out where are we being not reasonable, and that's the problem with mankind is we're not reasonable. Not currently. There's not much reason.
I
I mean,
think it's
war.
well, I mean, to some extent, you could say order is reasonable. Like if you really want to do something and like somebody's stopping you from doing it, like war is a reasonable answer in that like it can get you what you want. It's just it's not compassionate to like either side, really. Yeah, I think that it's really easy for us to not engage with reason anymore. It seems like a lot of people think that the answers already exist and they can just grab onto them and not actually have to apply any reasoning to them.
Yeah, right. The elements of change, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that well, yeah, a lot of people don't like to be challenged on their ideas either. I don't think if I have any ideas that I'm protective of challenging, it's probably because I think that they're shit and I just don't feel like reworking my entire perspective.
Yeah.
Which is probably is a pretty bad way to engage with anything. Does it freak you out to think about the things that you're taught, like to think about, I guess, the sort of the reasons that you go down the path that leads you to thinking about the adaptive imagination theory?
Um, nah, well, I care in some sense, and then in some sense, I don't care. I mean, I don't let it weigh down on me. I kind of, hey, if humanity goes to hell in a handbasket, let it happen. I'll be okay in a sense. It'll be sad to see, but
I think I worry about stuff like that a lot. Not that I like, well, not with an understanding that I can do anything about it, but I just worry about it.
sometimes I like to, just get away from everything, and just do me.
I think I have a hard time with that. I'm in my head too much. I think I get it when I'm driving. That's my time. I put some big ass subwoofers, some really good speakers in my vehicle, and if I really just need to like stop, I'll just go for a drive and not let myself really think a whole lot. Just kind of have like a like a half hour something of just like experiential existence rather than like a more like a reflective cognitive one.
Living in the present.
Yeah.
That's the kind of, well, I kind of like go back and forth. I like to try to live in the present. I mean, sometimes we do reflect though, and that's just, I mean, we could choose to do that if we'd like sometimes. But yeah, I think being in the present, that's a good thing.
Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think it's bad. Um, Do you think that language is one of the things that takes us out of that,
Well, yeah,
like
it's caught
inherently?
into the world of fictitious storytelling.
Yeah, it's something like it doesn't really have any value if you're not like reflecting on it to engage with it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If I gotta wrap up soon because I gotta use the restroom before I start my next stream and touch base with my co-host. But you're a really interesting guy. Do you prefer to just go by Thrashing Rage? Do you have like a first name or a nickname you also go by?
I don't have a first name or a nickname. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, I don't know when I'll reveal that. I could reveal it right now, my name.
Okay, I just didn't know because like Thrashing Rage is kind of a mouthful. I didn't know if you wanted me to refer to you as that, but that's totally fine if you want me to.
Tell you my name off stream.
Okay. Um, yeah, I think that I really appreciate the way that you approach thinking about things. So,
Thank you.
if you're open to it, I might invite you to come talk to me again about some other stuff. Like maybe if you come out with like another really interesting video, or if I have like a really interesting idea that I could use your perspective on, I'd be really happy if you want to. But I mean, even if you want to talk to me off stream too, that's totally cool. I like the way you think, so
And
I
I
would
don't know if you
value
do
that.
like panels or anything, but if there's anything like that, feel free to let me know.
I'm gonna be doing a vegan panel in the near future. Vegan and
Oh,
anti-vegan panel.
I actually do have thoughts on that, so that's up to you. But
Okay, yeah, well, I'll stay in touch. Feel free to message me anytime about anything, man.
sounds good, dude. This was a good talk.
Yeah, same. I hope that you felt like if I didn't fully hear you, that I at least had a concerted effort to do so.
Oh yeah, I could see you really did try, and you tried very well.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah.
All right, Thrashing Rage, YouTube, no Twitch yet, right?
I have a Twitch, but not much going on.
Well, that don't mean you can't take followers. Well, in the meantime, let's see. So YouTube is Thrashing Rage. Oh, it's also Thrashing underscore Rage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Uh, oh yeah, you're in Twitch right now. Hell yeah. So YouTube that. Do you have Twitter?
Not yet.
Did you
I
get
gotta
that
make.
going?
Will
Okay.
told me to make
I
one.
know he did. I
Yeah.
tried to find you before we hopped on because I was gonna tag you in my tweet about this
He
stream.
told, he told me to be careful, and I already knew that.
Yeah, Twitter's kind of a shit show.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Thrashing Rage on Twitch and YouTube. Hopefully Twitter soon. That way we can get uh more from you in between the videos. But I really appreciate you talking to me, man.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Yeah. Seriously, man. This was awesome. Yeah. Let's do it again.
It sounds good. Right, I'm gonna take a little break, say hi to my wife, and then I'm gonna come back for conspiracy philosophy with Natasha 405 episode 2. She wants to talk about Anunnaki and uh like Gnosticism in the Book of Enoch. Since I got 9/11 last time, this one's all hers, and I'm gonna be learning along with everybody because I don't know a whole lot about it.
You guys know about the reptilians, right?
That was one of the subjects that she brought up to me. I'm not the biggest David Icke fan, but we might be covering that soon.
I uh I like the guy, but I mean I don't believe in lizards, but I like him a lot. I seriously I listen to him talk. It's fucking amazing. I love
He's
the
entertaining.
yeah.
I just think that he's
I mean
full
he's
of
a smart.
shit. Yeah, I think you got to be smart to be full of shit, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not that mean to him. I wouldn't call him full of shit.
I think he does it for money. I think he tricks people for money, to be honest. But um, I don't know. He's been doing it a really long time. I like Jordan Maxwell. That's who I like. If you know
That's
who
the guy.
David Icke is, you have to know who Jordan Maxwell is.
Well, he believes in that stuff too.
I don't know if he's ever said anything like reptilians.
He's talked to David Icke and they discussed it.
Really, I'm
And
interested in seeing that.
he was talking about a fucking He said he feels like there's some kind of cosmic intervention, like there's a war going on between good and evil spirits, and that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So I like Jordan Maxwell. I treat Jordan Maxwell like I treat like most reporters. I take in all the stuff that they say that are like when they're presenting me like information. But when it comes to like the opinions and uh like sort of like the conclusions that they're come to considering these facts, I don't necessarily take that to heart. It's like a news reporter. Like if they're like Fox News is telling me something happened, it probably happened. I don't really give a shit what the pundits have to say about what they think about it, though. So
Yeah.
if Jordan Maxwell is telling me like the fact of the matter is something that's happening in the Vatican and like what the symbology behind like certain things in the Vatican and like how it relates to other things, I'll take that to heart. But then if he tells me like why he thinks it's happening, like okay, I can take that with a tablespoon of salt too.
He'll say something true and then just be like, and that's why there's fucking reptilians fucking us. Yeah, it's kind of like that type of thing. But
Yeah, it's that's which is inherently a little manipulative, but that's how a lot of people get you. They feed you some things that we all know to be true, and then they sneak in the conclusion on you.
yeah.
All
But
right,
anyway,
yeah,
I'll
Thrashing Rage. I appreciate you a lot, buddy.
appreciate you. I'll see you.
Take it easy. All right, I'm just gonna switch to my be right back, and then I'll be right back. Right around 4, I gotta talk to Natasha a little bit before we start